Sam at Mapletoft, Dunedin with Sam at Mapletoft, and it's next Thursday night, the 7th of November. That's £15 with a 2-course meal, and Phil Stamp's there as well, so I'm sure that's well worth £15. So speak to Paul Nyland once he's finished sorting microphone. Okay, we're going to start again then. Jeff, have you got a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Paul what he thinks the main difference is between League Two and the Conference Premier.
Lead up, you.
Better still get in it.
Main difference between Conference and League
Basically, I've seen saw nearly all the games last season. I've seen nearly all the games this season, and I know what the main difference is from where I'm sitting. I'd just like you to say what you think the main difference is and what we need to do to keep up with these teams.
Well, I personally don't think there's a great margin between the two leagues. What I would say.
Just carry on.
Yeah, I think in League Two is that you make a mistake, you get punished for it, and the quality probably in the last third is just that little bit better. Let's say you give people half a chance and they take it. And I think that's as you're travelling up the leagues, you get the player with just probably a little bit quicker thought process.
I mean, basically you're saying it's slightly better all over the pitch, really.
Yeah.
And there's no teams like Barrow last season we're going to beat 7 or 8 now.
In the conference, you looked at the bottom four and you really shouldn't be thinking, well, we should be winning this game.
That's right.
Whereas if you look at this league now, Hartlepool's your prime example. Couldn't win a game at all early on. Everybody knew they had good players all the way through the side.
Yeah.
It looks like we set them off on a nice little journey. I think they won 4 on the bounce after that. But they've just got that little bit more quality. They actually give you a little bit more time to play at this level, whereas I think the conference was a little bit more sort of, teams would get amongst you a little bit more. Saying that, we've watched all the goals again tonight. The lads have sat there watching the goals. There isn't many people, there's many teams that totally play football. Yeah, and what I mean by that, we've watched the goals tonight, haven't we? And the majority of the goals are from restarts, i.e. corner, free kick, or they seem to be a sort of a long pass or a long ball straight down the middle. So saying that as well, the teams that got promoted last year, I think all 4 of them had an ex-non-league striker in the ranks. I think Hansen was at Bradford, Pope was at Port Vale.
Yeah.
Kedwell was at Gillingham.
He's been a good player for years.
Yeah, you just look at it. So there's not. I think you look at it as a group of players. The amount of good players that are coming out of non-league now into not just our league, but if you look at Green and the boy from Fleetwood, they've stepped up to the market at championship level.
Yeah, really.
But I think overall, it's just that little bit more quality, and when you give people a bit more time, or you step off people, they hurt you with the final pass, the final ball, and then ultimately they punish you.
Well, I think if we'd have had Matt Green this season, that we'd be in the top 5 now.
I totally agree with that. I'd even go further. I think if you look at the points margin where we are, we've got 5 points off top now.
Right. Yeah.
I can count a number of games where you score the first goal, and we ultimately go on to win the game there. Now, it's a case of if buts and maybes, but I think the threat of Matt and how he came to us, he was a little bit raw. I think we worked as a pair.
He played on the wing for Oxford, because I saw him play against us for Oxford. He was on the wing then when he was about 19.
I think with Matt as well, he was a tremendous character. He was a team player, and I think when he wasn't scoring goals, and I think the lads in Farsham, he worked extremely hard. And when people talk about defensive structures, Matt was our first line in defence. The amount of times he gave himself for the side and worked extremely hard. And like I say, Demps, I know Jamie wasn't here last year, but Demps will tell you that, wow, he was just, teams couldn't cope with him. He was unbelievable. But these players ultimately, they move on to bigger and better things. And would I love him there? Yeah, I would. I love him as a player, but as well as that, as a person. Kid was hard to manage sometimes, but sometimes the best players are. And I knew whatever happened on a Saturday afternoon, he'd give me his all, and he'd give you guys his all, and the main thing is he'd score goals. But like I say, if we can add a goal scorer or two, you know, to what we've got, and we keep the same mindset, the same team spirit, because the boys will tell you that the team spirit amongst the camp is excellent. We trained this morning, and I expect them to be a bit miserable after Saturday, but they've come in and worked extremely hard. The banter in the camp is brilliant, and more so, everyone's been involved with team systems. You know, nothing's bigger than the team, and we've got a great team at the minute, and in terms of the group of players. Even the players that aren't playing are digging in there and helping each other out.
Good.
Okay, yeah, chap at the back.
I've got a question about Paul Black and why he's not been in the squad recently. Because obviously it's a lot for you to get him here for him to drop down the league.
Yeah, well, he was in the squad on Saturday. He was.
Well, first 11 then.
Say again, sorry?
In first 11 then.
Well, no, I mean, it's like I say, as I've been a football manager, and I said it earlier on, the thing about football is it's a game based on opinions, and I'd love to be able to please, you know, all 3,500 in our crowd on Saturday, but ultimately I've got to go with what I feel is best. You know, Paul's worked extremely hard. Sometimes it takes players a little bit of a while, to understand what's expected of them. To give you an example, Luke Jones last year, spent a time out on loan, didn't feature for the first half of the season, and the biggest accolade I can give Jonah was he was probably one of our best players in the second half of the season and came through. Now, it's going to be an awful long season. Blackie understands this. He's come back from Carlisle a little bit refreshed. His mindset's been a lot better. It's not just about how good a footballer is. Sometimes it's about how he fits into our structure, how he fits into our team. Does he want to do not just what I want him to do, but what his teammates want him to do? So there's all little things like this. We've got people like Ollie Park. You know, I bring him into the equation. I know he's, you know, the fans love him. He's like a bottle of pop when I put him on. But he's, you know, he's learning what we want out of him. And you know, ultimately, I think these players will all get an opportunity. And, as we see on Saturday, I hear this. I know I'm going off at tangents, but George Bilkinson. The amount of times I've heard people say, "Wow, you and George must be kicking 10 balls of crap out of each other every." You know, nothing could be further from the truth. George has been the ultimate professional since he's been at this football club. I've had to make massive decisions with George in terms of, you know, to keep us winning. Now, some people it might be wrong, some people it might be right, but me and George get along extremely well. He's come back and was I personally believe he was outstanding on Saturday. I don't think he could have done wrong. Now, George will have the opportunity now to, you know, to have a run in the side. You know, but when I look to my left, I've got Dempsey side of me, I've got Tafazzoli, and sometimes it's an abundance of riches. You know, I'm not saying that we've got, you know, 10 Diego Maradonas, but we've got good players that all understand the way we play and the way we are, and it's tough because I'm gonna have to, at some point soon I'm going to have to make some massive decisions because I've got Riley, Dempster, I'm going to have Pilks, John McCoom came in, did exceptionally well. Sutton's having the season of his life at the minute in a 3, and like I said, I've got Junior, going back to Paul Black, I've got Junior, Daniel, James, Jennings, you know, and Blackie, all vying for the same sort of position. So I know it's tough, you know, and you know, I think the one thing if you ask the boys, what I try and do is I try and be brutally honest with the players, tell them what we want, and then it's down to them to you know, to get a shirt and then ultimately to stay in the side.
Just ask you about Jake Spain, because it's something that crops up a fair bit. A lot of fans are asking why we're letting him go on loan to Alfreton when we're struggling to score goals. People think he can score one-on-ones. He scored as a few last year, and apparently he's playing in the FA Cup, which sort of gives the impression that you know, he's perhaps got no future at the Stags. And why is he scoring goals at Alfreton yet? He's not really had too much of a chance in our first team.
Yeah, once again, I like to look long term, and it's a long term goal of the football club rather than a short get rich quick scheme. Jake's been here for quite a while now, and without talking too much about mine and Jake's business, what we talk about personally, Jake's got a family to feed and a mortgage to pay then this year, and ultimately wants to decide where his future is come the end of the season. Now, being honest with the lad, He's not had a long run in the side here. And I've said to Jake, if you want to go out, get yourself some games, put yourself in the shop window. There's a 24-hour callback on him. But ultimately, I'm looking to the future. And all you can do with players is be honest with them. And once again, I'm judged solely on results. And I've made mistakes in the past, and I'm going to make mistakes in the future. But ultimately, I've got to go with my sixth sense in terms of where I see personnel and who I see at the football club in the not just the near future, but the beyond that.
Yes, sir. Chat about Pete.
Yeah, on a similar thing, what about Ross Dyer? What's the situation with Ross at the minute?
He's working. Ross Dyer gone away for a month. We've got a number of players that I felt were kicking the heels, and in terms of the physicality of the game, they weren't getting a lot of. They weren't getting a lot of match time. The reserves at that stage, I don't think were keeping them ticking over as I want them to. And once again, I can only, if you ask some of the boys, I have to talk openly with players and say, what is it you want now? Just to get in my first team, we've got to have a Ross Dyer that's spent a year out of the game with the cruciate. We need him 100% match fit, physically, but more importantly, mentally. Now, Ross is training with us on a day-to-day basis. He's come back, scored one goal in 2 games, and he's looking more like the Ross Dyer that was in the first season. And like I say, all these players, especially the players that are going to take us forward, it's important that we keep them match fit and mentally fit.
Is Ross Dyer cup tied now? Or did he play there?
No, Ross Dyer didn't play the FA Cup. We turned that down. Steve.
On Cools, obviously coach at side, set pieces and things up. It's a thing for me. I like looking at set pieces, different leagues. When you watch highlight shows, set pieces. How much of it do you have to invent, or how much is it like a book on set pieces and stuff like that?
There actually
Set
is.
pieces, then, you want to take them off?
No, there actually is. To be fair, we actually take them quite seriously. We have them pinned upon the wall. It's probably 8 to 10 sheets every game, whether it be where we want the ball to go, do we want to try and move someone out of a hole, the lads get individual jobs, whether it be someone's just going to be a decoy, we might try and free Demps up, it might be Reed, whoever's on the pitch, so we do actually take them really seriously. You look at the goals, which we have done before we came to the forum tonight, and there's a hell of a lot of goals being scored off set pieces at the minute and free kicks. And also probably ones where they might play quick ones, you got to get your lads switched on. You might only stand in front of the ball, it might be your centre forward who just walks in front of it, but that 1 second might buy you a time so your whole defence just can get switched on. So it does play a massive part in it. I think, as the gaffer's mentioned, to I think Jeff's question, the higher you go up and the better teams you play, your organisational skills have to improve, and it's something that we do take really seriously, whether it be watching a team. We have documents on sides which come back that thick. You do really sometimes, you could be playing Real Madrid every week, it might actually scare you a little bit, but if you don't do your homework, then sometimes that one thing can undo you. It's just a little unfortunate. You look at Saturday's goal when it's gone to the 93rd minute, and there's probably a little bit of hesitation in there. With 40 seconds to go, we could have had a point. And that's football, and it does bite you on the backside, and it does hurt. But set pieces, free kicks, they're a massive part of the game. We think we've got goals from set pieces. We arguably haven't scored probably enough yet from our own set pieces, but I think that will come. Once we get the delivery right, we've got some good dead ball takers, whether it be JJ, Clemo, Bennichinson. There's guys in the team who can put the ball in certain areas, and we've got other guys who can put it in the back of the net, so it's definitely something we do work on, yeah.
Pete, you got a question?
One for Coops again. Now we've gone up a league, when it comes to training, have you had to increase the intensity of the training for the fitness levels, or have you kept it from last season the same?
I think, in fairness, Pete, our intensity has been our strength. If you look at last year, our training is always pretty intense in terms of the way the lads go about each other. We do think that's an asset, the way we are as a team, the way we can close down. We do like to play a high tempo game. If we haven't got the ball, we want to try and get it back as quickly as we can. Having Greeny, like we've said, I think he's a frontline defender. The next unit goes in, we try and win the ball back if we can at source. We have a 5-second rule from kick-off. We try and win the ball back as quickly as we can. We don't want the team to come through the middle of us. It's all these little things, all little triggers all over the pitch. If we can't pinch it in a certain area, we get a shape and then we become hard to beat. The Chesterfield game was evident of that. If we'd have gone chasing the game, especially at their place, we might have got caught a few times. And in the end, we came up probably with a solution that we thought we needed 2 wingers on to actually help 2 full-backs because they were really coming at us, but we still needed probably a height for centre-back. So, intensity-wise, yeah, you look at games like that, it would take... it would take a lot out of you. We do rely on our fitness, and we take our fitness seriously. We're weighing the boys in 3 times a week now, which Murph sort of supervises. Gaffers put certain players which won't be named on special weights. They've got to hit them. If they're not, if those weights aren't there, then there'll be someone that asks why. So it's a massive part of the game.
You just said that about weighing the players every week.
Yeah.
Can you clarify for the room that all the players are within your weight limits, what you set, what you want them to be at, and none of the players are overweight and struggling with fat? That's been said on social networking sites, and people in this room will know. All players are
at the minute.
I'll answer that. We've got certain individuals, and people will know that there's certain individuals here. I'll be honest with you, and I'll be honest, I'll name one. We've got Louis Briscoe here. He's the lightest that he's been at this football club. And I'll be honest with you, and I saw my daughter's live today. I was joking with him, you know, just saying that it's the lightest you've been at this football club, but we've lost you to a back injury. You know, I'll probably want a few pounds on you and get you out playing. You know what I mean? In terms of that, he's in the best shape. Alan Marrick's in the best shape I've ever seen him in. There's a number of the boys, and I'll go. I know Kuchar was trying to be a little bit diplomatic with it. You know, some of the boys are on finding mechanisms, so it costs them a lot of money out their wages if they go over a certain. You know, we give them a weight that scientifically, Simon's in terms of their height, their body mass index, etc. That they cannot come in on a Monday or a Thursday, which are 2 important times. If you're playing on a Tuesday or a Saturday. We make sure that they, you know, in terms of our professionalism, we've took it up a notch with players. But sometimes, you know, if you go back a while and you say to yourself, I know this is far out there, but would Georgie Best have played as well as he is if he was been pissed half the times? You know what I mean? Now, sometimes you look at a player, and I do look at some players and I look at Paul Gascoigne, for instance. I thought Paul Gascoigne was better when he had a little bit of chubbiness about him. When he lost all of his weight, he seemed to lose his power. So there has to be not just the scientific role, and not just the physicality, but we have to make sure that we're not affecting somebody mentally by stripping them down to something that they're not really. But just to answer your question, like I say, the boys, and if we went through 4 or 5 boys, they're all in the best shape. And this is down to these guys. You know, in the best shape that I've seen them in since I've been at the football club.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Why have you changed to 3-5-2 this season, Paul? Because it seems to me to be a negative defensive system. You know, we've got the best defensive record in the league, but we've only scored 15 goals in 13 games.
And yet we won more games in the 3-5-2 than any other system.
Yeah, but we haven't scored in 3 games.
Oh no, but in one of those games we played a 4-4-2.
But I just don't think we're creating enough at the other end. When we change to 4-4-2, occasionally you have in the second half of the game, we seem to become more positive.
Yeah.
Why did you change to 3-5-2?
I'll talk you through right from the beginning of the season. We went to Scunthorpe early in the season, and we had a squad of players that I work a lot on body language and mindset, and I thought we played quite well at Scunthorpe. I thought for the first half an hour, I thought there was only one team ever going to win it. Now, what happened, we switched off twice and got done 2-0. Now, part of my job is to suss out the lads' mindset, and I just thought we went to Tranmere on the Tuesday afterwards, didn't play so well, and I just thought there was like a negativity in our mindset after a bit, and I needed something that was going to just instill that little bit of belief in them. We switched to the 3, we started picking up good results, and in terms of our body language, in terms of the day-to-day running of the club, the boys were starting to come in, and you could see they were starting to believe. And you know, I've said this in press, in the press a number of times. You can't instill confidence into players. That has to come naturally, and that comes through the understanding of they feel as though they belong. And we played the 3-5-2, and we continuously got results, and that was what it was down to. In terms of creating chances, I can't think of many games where we've not. I go to Bury on Tuesday night. Palms had a one-on-one with the keeper. Junior had a one-on-one with the keeper. I go to Saturday. Junior, well, Klukes missed one from about 3 yards on Saturday, didn't he? I think, you know, to be honest, I thought some of the football we played on Saturday in that system was out of this world. But ultimately, I would say as we progress, it's all about a group of people feeling comfortable in what they believe in. And at some point, sometimes as a manager, you've got to give them what they want and tweak it slowly, if that makes sense. And because the ultimate goal is we want to be in a position of success at the end of the season. But to do that at certain points of the season, it's like now people will say we're going through probably a little bit of a purple patch. The only thing we're going through in terms of a purple patch is we're not putting the chances away that we're creating at the minute. Now, do we make wholesale changes, change the system, change the personnel? I don't think that's needed. I just think sometimes we need to implement maybe a fresh face, somebody with a little bit of something else in an area, and all of a sudden a 0-0 turns into a 1-0, a 1-0 turns into a 3-0, and we start to consistently win football matches then again. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If you look at the top goal scorer in the league now on 8 goals, everybody's looking for a goal scorer. But going back to systems, and I've said it, and I'm not going to change my philosophy on it. It's not really systems that win football matches and create chances. It's footballers. And I think if we play, last season we played a 4-5-1, which you could say, we said sometimes it was a 4-3-3. But what we did, we played 4 at the back, 4 in midfield, 1 just in front. And Greeny played up front on his own. And we had a 56 goal in 2 seasons striker. And I do believe it's footballers that win your football matches, not necessarily systems. And some of the older people, gentlemen in the room, will go back to when you played, is it wing halves and stuff like that. We can play about with it. The England team play, it's 4-4-2. Man City are playing, Liverpool. Me and Coops were talking about it the other day. Liverpool's he's reverted back to play 3-5-2 now because he wants to play his 2 best players, Sturridge and Suarez up front, and everyone's playing this 4-4-1-1 now. And I think you'll find that systems, football will evolve again over the next 3 or 4 years. Because at some point, everybody last season in the Premiership wanted to play this 4-3-3, 4-5-1 sort of system. All of a sudden now, people are getting that little bit cute and playing different systems. But I'll be honest with you, I initially implemented it because I thought the lads needed that little bit of belief and to establish themselves here. Will we play for the rest of the season? Not if. Don't get me wrong. If we win the next 5 playing it, then we'll stick with it. But ultimately, we've got Louis Briscoe, we've got Junie Daniel, we've got Lyndon Meikle, we've got these kind of players that I want to be, especially at home. We've got a nice big pitch. We want to try and get the ball wide and play some attacking football. But ultimately, it's about winning. You can draw your away games and win your home games, and ultimately, being that pack. That's the main goal this season.
Just ask about Godfrey Perko quickly, because I know we've not seen very much of him. I know sort of last 3 weeks has been talked up a little bit in the press. You've spoken really well of him in the press. And no disrespect to the guy we brought in from Forest, but if you're Godfrey Pocock after you spoke well of him in the press and then he's not in the squad, confidence-wise, does that help him, or is he one that you still see being at the club at the end of the season, or is he one that might be on the way?
Well, ultimately, that's down to Godfrey. Now, Godfrey's, like you say, it's there'll probably be rumours around that I've had a fight with Godfrey next, but I guarantee you that what I try and do all the time is be honest with the footballers, whether it's good or bad. Godfrey's come from nowhere. He's come back pre-season. He's worked extremely hard. The boys will vouch for you. Every training session is like a man possessed, and he's not just knocked on my door, he's banged my door down to want to play for this football club. Now, I'm never going to turn my nose up at somebody that wants to play for this football club, and I just think he's earned the right to come into the equation. Once again, I've got a number of people that, and I can't keep everyone happy, but he's in my thoughts. At some point, he might be needed, and the one thing about Godfrey is, and the boys will vouch once again, he's one of the most honest players I've worked with. And when called upon, like he did at Bury, I think he went on Bury, I think he touched the ball twice but covered about 100 miles in terms of running. He's earning the right to be part of it, and like I said, that sounds harsh sometimes, the way I'm talking about him, but it isn't. I want players that are fully committed to making this club a success. I'm never going to promise any player anything, but if they ultimately want to be there, they'll get in the side and stay there.
Dan?
Hi, in terms of Sam Clucas, with this new guy coming in, are you going to drop Sam back into midfield, or are you going to play him up top with this new guy, if this new guy starts on Friday?
Well, it all depends. Depends. I think we've first and foremost, I think there's a lot of pressure being heaped on Sam, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's doing him a lot of good. The pressure that people might call me for it sometimes, but I've done it with Palmer. Clucas is probably a little bit in front of in front of Palms. Sam is, and sometimes they need to be taken out of the firing line. You know what I mean? Now Sam is ultimately came to the football club as a winger. We kind of chucked him in as a centre forward because we've seen him in behind closed doors games and games where we've been out in Malta and training sessions, and we thought, wow, he can do a job there. He's what now? Is he joint third top goal scorer in the league? But I just think, as a football club, we've got to be a little bit aware that Sam's a young player. He's coming from non-league football, and he's not the finished product yet. I personally do believe he's going to go on to be one hell of a footballer, and but we've got to make sure we sometimes wrap him up in cotton wool. And I speak to some supporters, and I think one of them called us Sam Clucas down, and I said to him, wow, that's a bit unjust to be fair. You can't do that. One, it's a little bit disrespectful to the rest of the players, but two, to put such a tag on young shoulders is a little bit unfair. So I do what I feel is right at the time. Just because we've signed a Premiership, young player from the Premiership, I've got to be respectful to the rest of my players, and he's got to earn the right to warrant a place in the side. And then I'll for the night, for Friday night, I'll pick which I think is the best system, and ultimately the best set of players to try and win that game.
Alan?
I'm not very good at reading football really, but last season with 4-4-1-1, one of the things that was very interesting was to win the ball round about the centre circle or in the opposition half. You had a little triangle where the central midfielder and the wide midfielder would crowd, and then Steve would come back and nip the ball away. And that seemed to happen. That seemed to work very well. I've not noticed that this season. Maybe it wasn't intentional. I'm sure it was intentional. Is it something that a higher standard means it won't work so well, or?
No, if I'm going to be totally honest, we've not got into our mode yet, and what I mean by that is, I don't think we're firing on all cylinders at this present time, and that might surprise a lot of people because we've got off a good start. But I think there's more. What I've said in the press week in, week out, we can get better at a lot of things. The way we applied ourselves when we didn't have the ball last season, even to, I go back to the Liverpool game. First half, we stood around and admired them. The second half, wow, we were just like madmen. The way we squeezed the ball in high areas, and like Coops has said, our training is quite intense. Most days, the lads come in, they work extremely hard with the ball, without it. With the whole process of training, the way you play, and I think one of my feelings is that we can get stronger at is squeezing us aside, as we call it, and I think when we, for some reason, it always seems to happen as it. If you analyse last season, when the pitches were nice and the sun was shining, the game becomes a little bit testimonial style. When the pitches start to become a little bit heavy, we really start getting to our mode and we really get about teams. And I just think that's one aspect of a game that we can get better at, squeezing the ball higher up the pitch. Because I know we've talked about a little bit of extra quality here, but we did it to one of the best clubs in world football, and people like Anthony House was getting tweets off the Brazilian guys. Why are you playing at this level of football? And it wasn't because of what he did with the ball. It was how he set us off in terms of going to get the ball back, and it's a massive part. The biggest compliment I can give a team is if you look at the Barcelona team, everyone said what a fabulous footballing side they were, but they instigated all this going and get the ball back high up the field. They were the best team with the ball, but they were a country mile better than anybody else at going to get it back. And if we can implement that and take that to another level, then I think. Well, what I'm trying to say, I think there's room for improvement for us in that area.
It's just it was planned last season, wasn't it? That little triangle.
I tell you, if you can analyse the Macclesfield game, if I could show you a DVD of the Macclesfield game now, the amount of planning that went into that game was amazing. Because I actually thought they had one of the best set of footballers at this level of football. They kicked off within, I think it was about 9 seconds. We'd won the ball back and we'd hit the post. Lee Stevenson hit the post. Now, how we went about that game, did we play very well with the ball? I thought we were quite average with the ball, but we just didn't give them. We won the ball so high up the field. I think the majority of the goals were created from us winning the ball back in their third, and create stuff from there. And it's, like I say, it's a massive part of football. And we work, the boys work extremely hard in training. Some of the people have been down to watch us, and sometimes it does get a little bit feisty, and it gets a little bit, it does get a bit ferocious.
Thank you.
Chap at the back, had his hand up.
Is our home form at the moment a worry for you? I know at the start of September, I was looking at, we had three away games, and I just took 3 points from them, plus took 7, and I thought that was like beyond all expectations. And truthfully, I thought we'd get pasted at Chesterfield. Well, after the Chesterfield game, I was looking at the 3 home games that were coming up. There were Bristol Rovers, Hartlepool and Plymouth. And to get 1 point out of them 3 games is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, it is. I totally agree with you.
I know we've obviously been lacking up front, so we've only scored 1 goal or 2 goals in them 3 games, but I thought we could have at least took about 5 points out of them, and we would have been a bit further up top. So do you reckon?
I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree with you. I'm not going to lie to you. But what happens is, I go back and I said it in the press at the time. If you look at Chesterfield, since our 2 games, they've probably had a bigger hangover than us. And what I'll say with those 2 games, I think it was like 2 boxers that just weren't going to give an inch. And I think we took so much out of each other then that we had. I was a bit cutting with the players after the Tuesday night we played on the Saturday. It was Hartlepool. And I said that we weren't at the cleaners. Now, if I'm going to be totally honest now, hindsight's a great thing. I should have made changes because I think that some of the lads were fatigued after those games and have not probably recovered physically, but not recovered mentally from the battle that we had. The home games, I think once again we've made a rod for our own back, because I think at home over the last sort of 18 months it's been absolutely magnificent. And it's something that we're aware of and that we want to get back. Not for anything else. It's a home support. We want to please. You want to please you guys at home. We want to be winning at home. But the thing is, our away form's, I think, one of the best in the league. we're very hard to beat away from home, and if we do pick up that point away from home and we do get that 3 points at home, obviously you're averaging 2 points, you're going to be within a shot of, you know, success at the end of the season. So yeah, I'm not going to lie to anybody. It's something that we want to put right, and we want to put right very quickly because, like I say, I think our home form has always been our bread and butter, and we've made this place a fortress and a hard place for teams to come, and I think we need to get back to that as quick as possible.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Is the goalkeeper still injured?
Is what?
Deakin, the goalkeeper, still injured.
He had a bad dislocation of his arm, but we've tried to make sure that we bring him back steadily. So that's why we've kept Mitchell on at this time. We didn't want to throw. I don't want to throw somebody in and sort of hang them out to dry, if that makes sense. So, but if I'm going to be totally honest, he had his best training session I've seen him in 3 or 4 weeks today. I thought he was immense in training, and like I say, it's not just the physical injuries; it's the mental scars sometimes it leaves, and it was a bad one. Simon will probably tell you. We thought it was going to be a lot worse than it really was, and testament to the medical staff at the club. But hopefully we get him back and get him pushing Maz and Mitch, for a place in the first team.
You know, in the goalkeeper situation, I know we're non-league, you only get, I think, 5 substitutes, and you chose not to have a reserve keeper, but in the league we've got 7, but you're still not having a reserve keeper. Do you not think that's a bit risky?
We've got Lee Beavers that's played League One in goal, so he's played a number of games. Well, he's had to go back and go in goal when you weren't allowed. So that many subs, League One, and he's the one in training that always gets the gloves on and always goes in there. Just mind you, we've got about 4 of them. Lee Stevenson's another one, and I think Dempsey one as well. Okay. But no, I know people might say it's a bit of a gamble, but anyone that's spoken to Pete, even now with his dislocated shoulder, to probably make him better than saving the ones in the top corner. But he's quite a decent keeper himself.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up unless somebody's got one last point. Dan? Yeah?
Hi, can I just touch upon Trevor Andrews, something I'm not quite sure about? How long is his contract in?
Till Christmas.
Till Christmas?
Yeah. We've got quite a number of, well, we've got, I think 3 players that are contracted till Christmas.
Who are they, sir?
Pardon?
Who are they?
I think I'd be unfair to say at the minute, you know what I mean? That's talking about people's personal, yeah, just answer your question, yeah, Tafazoli is one of them.
Okay, Darren?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask John and Jamie what they thought the main difference was playing, between the conference and League Two. Obviously, Jamie had seasons playing the conference and season playing with Fleetwood in League Two. John played with Crawley in League Two. So, any conclusions you kind of arrived at from comparing the two?
Yeah, I think it's a lot more organised. It is a big set piece league. You've got to be switched on to set pieces. I think we're strong as a team in set pieces, as Coops has said. We always try and work on and do our set pieces, but you've got to be switched on to other teams as well, because they either go short or they work on stuff as well. So it's a lot more organised, set pieces, and as the gaffer said as well, there's always like that pass which is you're going to score a goal. In the conference, it's more like rough and tumble, you know what I mean, in your face, and that you'd have a lot more time in League Two on the ball, and that's basically it really.
Can I ask you what you've done to upset the York City fans? Because when I was sat in the stand at York City, they didn't seem to like you at all for some reason.
To be fair, I don't think many fans like me, to be honest with you. I hope some of you understand.
No, we do.
I do talk fast, I am from Liverpool, but I just like to upset people on the pitch. That's the kind of pitch I am. I get involved. I don't think I played against the gaffer. I think I played against it was Mansfield Fleetwood, and like the amount of abuse I got off Mansfield fans when I was coming off of Fleetwood was unbelievable. I think the gaffers gave me a bit of abuse as well, and Cooper's had a go like so. But no, that's the kind of person I am. I get involved. I like to upset people. I don't like people with big egos, no like big time players. It's not for me that, so I like to get involved, and then as Dan should probably tell you as well, he's the same. It's just the way I am, and I'm going to get involved.
Did you want to?
No, I think that gentleman earlier on summed it up really well, actually. Without being disrespectful to conference teams, there are no easy games. And if you're not at your best, you get found out, i.e. Hartlepool. So that was a slap round the face for us all, but you live and you learn, and hopefully that'll bode well for the future with that in mind.
Okay. Pete, do you have a question?
No, I was just Darren.
Robert's from Chesterfield, will you be sending him a Christmas card?
I think his scouts as well, would he give it to him, so he's been told, anyway, I'll the one that was
Okay, yes, last one at the back then.
Can we shoot more when we get into the penalty area?
Can we shoot more when we get into the
Yeah, I'll say it's. We try. We say we've done about an hour and a half on it today, haven't we? Just continual shooting. It's just practice now. Hopefully we can score a few goals.